Okay, so let's talk about the context for why we train. I mean, we're training because we can have a disaster, and we want to be able to reduce the impact. Uh, it's specifically for us, for our hams, we have radio communication skills that we're going to apply to the context of the disaster, whatever it is. So in this particular course, we're going to use the scenario for an earthquake to talk about it. And we're going to refer to articles that have been prepared for tips on our weekly ham net. And they're on the right-hand side. These are references. Lee's putting together a book of all of them, and they're going to be available to all of our hams and put into the sheds in paper form. Okay, so let's start with the scenario. 4th of July. I always like to do scenarios on the 4th of July because we know it's a mess here. So it's 4th of July and it's 4 p.m. in the afternoon. There are 20,000 visitors in addition to what's left of the residents on the 4th of July. And it's a 7.5 earthquake. It's located epicenter shallow 5 miles, about 10 miles south of Bodega Bay. So about as close as you would ever want it to be. Extreme violent shaking. Liquefaction and landslides immediately with the shaking. They don't wait. Trees and power lines, they're down across the roads. The roads are blocked from the landslides and liquefaction as well. And a tsunami warning has been issued. The important thing for us in this scenario is that Bodega Bay is cut off from the outside world. I mean, other areas have been impacted as well, and everybody's busy everywhere. In addition, they just can't get here, can't get in. All of our neighborhoods are cut off from each other as well. So Salmon Creek, Serena Del Mar, West Shore Road, the Marine Laboratory is its own island. Old Town is cut off. North and South Harbor are cut off from each other as well as from any place else below or upward on 1 and below on 1. So everybody's cut off. I mean, we've got a bunch of islands here. So the question is, what do we do? So the first thing to do, and I think this is important to recognize, and I don't see this often enough, is that we take care of ourselves and our family and our neighbors or whatever first. You pick up your phone if you want to, but that's not what you're going to work with. You got to check for gas leaks, a variety of other things. So I've put in the disaster checklist. It's on the right-hand side, which is a summarization of what the first steps that we should do. And it includes the CERT Size Up 9 steps. These are in the basic course. If you haven't taken the basic course, I'd advise you to do it because you're going to be working in teams at the field level, so to speak, at the level of the neighborhoods. You're going to be working with other people in your neighborhoods, and you're going to be doing problem solving. You're not going to just stand there with a radio and ask for and wait for someone to tell you to say something. You're going to be part of it. There's just no choice. We're all going to do things we don't want to do. So once we've gone through that checklist, so we've done our checklist, and now we're prepared to pick up our radio. We're going to begin the radio operations. So if you have your radio, actually, let's do a few things here. We're going to walk through the yellow highlighted stuff. Turn it on. Okay. Then Shay put an initial version of this together. Lee went through and updated it and reformatted it and put nice pictures in. So he can, at any time anybody wants to chip in and make any comment, they're welcome to do it, but Lee can do anything that he's written that we put in here. Be glad to hear it. So you know that there are two modes. One is a memory mode. We programmed all of the radios to be exactly the same. They're standardized so that when we say channel 1 or channel 2, it's the same on everybody's. And that's the MR mode. The VFO mode, we're not going to get into, but you can hit the button that says VFO MR and change the mode and actually put in a frequency. There may be times somebody will have to do that, but it's going to be pretty rare. The push to talk, you know about, if you're on the net at all. So on number 4, the AB button, you have two bands that you can choose from, an A and a B, and typically we try to standardize. Take a look at number 8. You all have your radios, I think, programmed so that it only shows frequencies. There are ways to show the tactical name of it, and there are actually 2 ways. One is I can reprogram your radios. It's a very simple kind of setting to make, and the other is to follow the instructions here that Lee's put in. And I'm not going to go through them in detail, but I just want you to know that you can, so that for example, channel 1 will say BB FPD repeater or something like that. 2 will say C-view, so that instead of memorizing frequencies, you can just read what the tactical name is. Section 3, Shay put together a few weeks ago, how can I get clearer, better communication? And I liked it because it's a kind of a top level view of what you might be able to do. We're all going to have static at various times if we're operating with a 4 or 5 watt handheld radio and small antennas, but there are various things that we can do to enhance our reception and transmission capabilities, and that's what this talks about. By the way, when you bring your radio up, one of the first things you should do is just take the antenna and turn it, make sure it's tight. I've had a couple of times where I don't know how it happens, but the antenna gets loosened up a little bit, and that affects the connection, of course, and you just don't have as good capability as you did before. So the other thing you can do is you can change antennas, and we have various suggestions here for types of antennas. Lee has written up some additional, more detailed kind of things that are available. We just want you to know that you can enhance, enrich the capability even with that little bow thing. The antenna that comes with it is basically a dummy antenna, doesn't do anything. And so at the very least, you should get a better antenna. Okay, so then we'll go to Lee's excellent write-up on displays. And what I want to specifically point out here is looking at the right-hand corner where it says battery charge level. So when you turn your radio on, you should get in the habit of looking at that battery charge level. You should get in the habit of at least every 3 months, probably charging your radio. The worst thing that can happen is if you have a disaster, you pick up your radio and the radio battery is dead. You don't want that. So just build this into your repertoire of things to do. I'm looking at the yellow stuff here. This field strength over here gives you some indication as to how well you're receiving and transmitting. And so that has some value to it if you're having problems. The display down here, the graphic down here illustrates the A and B band display, and this is set up to show the yellow radios in the sheds being tuned to I'm saying that wrong. This isn't the yellow. Lee, jump in here if you would. I don't think the yellow ones have 146.205.
So Dewey, what I've shown there is whoever is the shed captain.
The shed captain does, yeah.
Who's responsible for talking to net control and the people around their shed. So the bottom one is the number for Day Flat Road Shed, and the top one is, of course, net control.
Yeah.
And how I set up the other radios is they're all, in the case of Bay Flat, they're all 21, so that my people who are out in the field won't get confused about who they should talk to.
Right.
You want them talking to the shed captain, not net control.
Right. So these are set up specific, and these are the radios that are in the sheds, not your radios. So the ones in the sheds.
Right, correct. No, the ones in the shed are all set, in my case, they're all set for 21.
Yeah, yeah. We're going to talk a little bit about each shed area having its own specific frequency to talk internally. So we're going to go into that. Okay, this is another one that Lee put together. And I just talked about looking at the display to see what the battery charge is. If you have your batteries, or if you have your radios, then if you have never taken the battery out of your radio, this would be a good time to learn to do it. Press that button up at the top and take the battery out and back in as if it were a spare battery. This article talks about having spare batteries. So if your battery is down, they're going to last about 20 hours or so if they're left on the whole time. That's if you don't do much transmission. Transmission will decrease the time. So for those who have radios, can you get your battery out? I'll tell you, typically in a class with 68 people, there's always a couple that have trouble with it. It's not the easiest thing to do in the world. It also is made more complicated if you have the belt clip on. It kind of gets in the way. You got to press the belt clip up, press the button, and pull the battery out all at the same. So if you got 4 hands, you're in good shape. Okay. Got our radios out. We checked them. We've got them tuned to the right bands. And the next thing is to open the emergency net. So here's the deal. We got a 7.5 earthquake. We don't know who is, we don't know if someone's hurt that ordinarily would go into the station and open it up. We don't know how long with the liquefaction and landslides and that sort of thing it's going to take to cross roads to get there from wherever one of us lives. So it may not be open right away at the station where the radios are and the repeater is. So what we want is everybody turn on the radio to channel 1 and listen to see if it's open. If it isn't open, simply say, this is your call sign, opening the CERT net. And although you aren't co-located with the Emergency Operations Center, at least we can start communication. So everybody has that obligation to open the net if they can. And then once someone is at the station, they will take over net control. when we talk within the confines of a shed neighborhood area, we're using simplex. It's line of sight, one frequency, and we're totally dependent on that line of sight. When we work through the station, we're working through a repeater in a mode called duplex, which means the duplex means two frequencies, one for receive and one for transmit, so that the repeater can take in messages off the receive frequency, send them out on the transmit frequency. Your radios are all programmed to work with the repeater, work in a duplex mode as well as a simplex mode. We tell it which it is. We tell it for each channel. So that's an important basic concept. You don't have to do anything necessarily other than operate, but to understand that that's what's happening. And we use tactical call signs. So every shed area has a tactical call sign in addition to your amateur radio call sign. And you use the tactical call signs because no matter who's operating in that functional area, it's the same call sign, and it makes it a lot easier for us. This is something Shay put together. I ordinarily in the class will pass out the band plan, which y'all should have. Tom has sent this out, probably the last one a couple of months ago, I think. So I had asked Shay to review the first 25. Those are the most important ones to us. I think there's 125 total, but the others are Marine channels and first responder channels that we aren't ordinarily going to use. These are the ones we're going to use. So channel 1 is the most important to us in an emergency. That's the one that gets the repeater at the fire station. Channel 2 is the one that we use on our weekly net meetings. Channel 9 is important to us because it's the simplex backup in case the Bodega Bay repeater goes down. And then channels 10 through 21 are the frequencies assigned to each shed. So on the band plan, there are also abbreviations for the tactical call signs as well. And for your shed, wherever you live, you should look up on the band plan what the number is and what the tactical call sign is for your area, and memorize it or write it down where it's going to be handy when something happens. Channels 23 and 24 are frequencies set aside for what we're calling sidebars. If we need to have a medic or a firefighter provide consultation for something that's happened, some incident, then those are the channels that we'll be going to, and we're going to show an example of that in just a minute. So, pro words, phonetics, concise messaging. If you hear me answer the roll call, I answer it with Kilo Mike 6 Delta Echo Yankee. And I use phonetics on my own call sign just about every time. I just do it for practice. These are all first responders use these if needed. If they don't need it, they don't use them. But if someone says, say again or spell it, you need to know these. If you don't remember something like this, you don't remember specific letters, I'd say go ahead and make something up. Just, you know, you've got to make it as clear as you possibly can. So do the best you can. Pro words, we don't get a chance to use these much in our weekly net. A weekly net is not the same as our emergency net. But an emergency net, you may very well need to use some of these: affirmative, negative, Wilco, Roger. Over and out, we don't typically use because it's enough just to let up the press the talk button and the carrier is gone, or it sounds like the message is over. But in an emergency, over and out may be a much more efficient way to operate, to let someone know that you're done, or you're out, you're going away, or whatever it is. So I ask you just to pick up some of these and think about how you can use them. So this next section is another one Shay put together. And he makes a distinction between two different kinds of nets. One, the club net, as he calls it, is what we do on Tuesday nights. It is not the same as an emergency net at all. It has elements of it. It's a directed net. You're working through a controller, but it's not, it doesn't have the same protocols as the emergency net, which, what's he calling that? A traffic net. I think it's pretty obvious that the confusion that would exist if all of us were trying to talk to control at the same time. So we specify that a captain for the shed neighborhood will do that. And that's what is BB CERT's net structure. This is something we repeat when we talk about roles and responsibilities in the field versus roles and responsibilities at the station, but we have to have some structure. And so the idea of having a captain or a captain's ham be the only one that contacts CERT net control is where we're going. Okay. So it's a little exercise. How are we doing for time? We're about halfway over. I think we'll be okay. If you have your radio on, just tune to channel 1. Now, when I do this in real class with brand new hams, they often don't know how to change the channel. And so that's one of the reasons I do it. You have the up and down buttons to change channels. And if you put in 3 digits and you're in MRO mode, you will change to the channel, that number that you've input. See, you go to channel 1, that's our emergency net, always our emergency net. If there's a disaster, if we're having wildfire threats, anything else, go to channel 1, not to channel 2. Listen to see if there's anything going on. And if there isn't, either open the net or put your, say your call sign and see if you get any response. But get things started. If there's someone at the station, they're going to respond to you. It's a way of taking roll call at the same time. So now we're going to go through some messages, 3 of them. We've gone through most of the sections, just a few left. And what the messages are going to do is illustrate what's in those sections. So in this case, we're using the simplex frequency in our local shed area, neighborhood. Let's see, let me go to section 10. Right here, roles and tasks in the shed local operation. And this talks about how we form teams, how we have a shed captain, the shed captain and the ham's role in, if the shed captain is not a ham, the ham's role in assisting the shed captain, calling into net control and so forth. I wish we had more hams in each shed neighborhood, because we should have a ham with each working party, so to speak, people doing surveys or anything else they're doing. We probably don't. We're striving to do that, but we probably don't yet. So we're in the simplex frequency now, and I'm going to give you an example of the message. You can see this paragraph here where we walked the street, we've identified structures that are down, we're looking at liquefaction possibilities and that sort of thing. And so this is the message. So this is all internal now. So the team is walking along and has identified these things. And so what they do is talk to their captain. So it goes Old Town, routine message, team 1. That's it. That says, I have a message. It's a routine classification. And we're going to look at what the classifications are in just a second. And so the captain's ham or captain says, go ahead, team 1. We've surveyed Trailer Street. 12 houses have severe visual damage, no sign of victims, and so forth. Team 1, over. Old Town has to respond to say, receive the message, and says, Roger, team 1, Old Town, out. So here's all the things we just saw in this message. The protocol used to identify the station being called and the caller. It's always the one being called first, either their FCC call sign or their tactical call sign, and then the caller's call sign. And in this case, they're both all tactical call signs. Don't need the FCC call sign. We're working with a directed net, even on a local basis. So unless the captain's ham or captain says that 2 parties can talk to each other directly, they're going through the captain. Use the pro words. Over, out, go ahead, Roger. We looked at all those pro words. They just will flow off your tongue as you go along. The routine message. So let's take a look at where that is. There we go. So in section 11, what the field ham needs to tell CERT net control. You see these highlighted categories of messages here: the immediate, priority, and routine. Immediate is life and death right now. And if you have an immediate message, you have life and death, you want it known. And so you say so. Priority means it's also, there's a danger to life and well-being of someone, but it's not an immediate kind of thing. You got a few minutes to in a few hours, you know, but please, this is important, get back to me. Routine, there's no danger to well-being. And so that can be road conditions, things of that sort. So and originally, what the practice has been for BB CERT teams, that the CERT control would label these as the calls came in. I want to change that so that the field hams identify in their first message what level of priority to place on this message. That will get a faster reaction from the hams who at the station who may have multiple calls coming in, who may have other things to do in the emergency operations center. That will give them a priority to work with. And they may change it if they see a need to, but the field ham knows what's going on. They should be the ones to say what's happening first. So that's what that highlighted area is. There's this sentence here: the EOC needs a specific name of the incident or conditioning. That's what these are. And we're trying to put some standardization in for the type of incident that's being called in, so that the EOC can map it and look these kind of things up, and along with the priorities, give them some way to plan and prioritize. Okay, so all those things are in that message. And here's message 2. Now we're going to call into CERT control. The first message was strictly in the shed neighborhood, and now it's from this CERT, from the shed captain or ham into CERT control at the fire station. And the whole point in operating that way is to decrease congestion. I have discussions with one of the firefighters who used to control CERT communications about how many kind of messages we're going to have, say in a major earthquake in the first few hours. I think we're going to have hundreds in just the first 2 or 3 hours. And the reason is we've got 10 stations, 10 neighborhoods, but we also have a few others where hams are located that are not in shed areas. All of them are going to be calling in at least 2 or 3 times in an hour. And so it's going to build up awfully quick. And so it's going to be very busy. It goes back to that description of what an emergency net is, a traffic net, and describing what our priorities are and how we're going to act. Let's take a look at the message. So now we're moving over to South Harbor, to the Osprey shed. CERT control, this is Osprey. Go ahead, Osprey, CERT control. CERT control routine message. We're still in the routine area, and describes a variety of conditions of streets, houses, structures, the need to set up a local triage area, and where that is located. So again, all of these things are in that simple message. Relates to the band plan, the calling sequence, use of tactical call signs, the message classifications for a priority. And in this case, because it's routine, no action is required of net control, but they are going to map it. They are going to send it over to the EOC to let them know. They need to know what the conditions on the ground are. We have the use of pro words, fairly concise messaging. There was a lot there, and it illustrated the idea of reducing net congestion and a directed emergency net. So all of that and those that simple message. So here's the last one. Now we're going to shift gears. This is an immediate message. This relates to life and death. In addition, the condition is that someone is bleeding out, basically, and their life is in danger. And there are 4 team members, but they haven't paid attention to the basic course or taken it. They don't know how to apply a tourniquet, pressure points, and they have to call in for help. So they notify the captain, and the captain authorizes a direct CERT control now between the team and CERT control. And this is in Salmon Creek. So here's the messaging. CERT control, Salmon Creek, immediate message. It should get attention right away. Go ahead, Salmon Creek. CERT control, we have a man bleeding profusely. I don't know if this is a concise message or not. I may have to rewrite this. We have a man bleeding profusely from a broken bone in the upper leg that has broken the skin. We're unclear how to stop the bleeding, what to do about the bone. We need to move him to triage too. Over. Salmon Creek, hold one. I will get an EMT. Go to channel 23 on band B for this communication. Over. So remember, we talked about the band plan, and 23 and 24 channel were 4 consultations. And so what control is doing is saying, switch to that channel. I'm going to have an EMT talk to you. This is a little bit of a theoretical kind of thing. In the EOC, we can't be sure that at any given moment that a paramedic or an EMT is going to be available. We hope they will. But in the best of all worlds, this may be the only way to solve the problem of not being able to get to a neighborhood. And if there's only 4 crew members for a while, anyhow, they're not going to be everywhere all the time or everywhere at any time. So, so this consultation concept is one that we worked up, and hopefully it will save lives. And see the last one here. But by the way, this is another reason you need to know how to change channels. You can't leave it on channel 2 week after week after week and not remember how to change channels. You have to change it to 1. You have to change it to your local shed frequency, and 23 or 24 if there's a consultation. So there's a lot of reasons to know how to change channels. The last paragraph there, Salmon Creek Team 1, this is paramedic Jim. If you haven't applied direct pressure to the bleeding area, do so immediately. Let me know when you have, and then we'll talk about how to do the tourniquet splint and movement to triage. So this is my way of saying what a paramedic would say. Jim, by the way, here is our chief paramedic, Jim Levy. He probably would say it another way, much better, but this is just for illustration purposes. And again, simple message sequences like this point out a whole bunch of stuff that we're trying to get across here. The immediate message classification, accurate wording, short, protocol for invoking a self-help mode, which is what we're calling this request for medical advice. It's the same thing for rescues. We're not trained in CERT to do the kind of rescues that a real firefighter would do, but we have some minimal capabilities to do that. And they can help us remind us of what those are, and also advise us just not to do something if it's too dangerous. Again, I keep coming back to this. I think even though our major role is communication, radio communication, to know some basic medical kind of stuff that's taught in the basic CERT basic class is important to us. Okay, so we did get through all 3 messages. I wasn't sure if we would. And 10:54, so time's good. That's the end of the scenario and the end of the course.